What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Now we got Leviticus chapter 12, which, the last chapter talked a lot about what's clean and unclean, especially in regards to animals, and what is or is not clean by those standards, what's okay to eat, and just generally speaking, don't touch or eat from animal carcasses. But that should be kind of obvious. Anyway. And it also laid out, in a couple of cases at least, things to do to make yourself clean again. Or at least, like, a waiting period before you can be considered clean. But anyway, so I think this chapter is going to somewhat stem off of that, except for a much more specific situation. So, here we go. Leviticus chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as she is unclean during her monthly period. On the 8th day, the boy is to be circumcised. Then the woman must wait 33 days to be purified from her bleeding. She must not touch anything sacred or go to the sanctuary until the days of her purification are over. If she gives birth to a daughter, for 2 weeks the woman will be unclean, as during her period. Then she must wait 66 days to be purified from her bleeding." Okay, I can't say I'm exactly sure why it would have been double the length of time for a girl versus for a boy, but, I mean, I'm not God. I certainly don't get to say what the qualifiers are for, why these things should be the way they are or not. But for those of you who weren't aware, childbirth is a bit messy. So, I think being unclean is, somewhat implied from that, really. Now, the ceremonial uncleanness is a bit different. But still, anyway, so basically, if a son is born, woman's unclean for 7 days, and I wonder if that's, unclean to a similar effect of how, the animals mentioned in the previous chapter and their carcasses were considered unclean. Maybe that's the whole ceremonially unclean thing. So, if she would have touched other things, those things would be considered unclean and, need to be washed or whatever. Or, if they can't be washed, broken and just thrown away. Now, the whole 1 week waiting period for the boy kind of sort of makes sense in that respect, because that's also the length of time they're supposed to wait before the boy was to be circumcised. Thereby, entering into the covenant established between God and Abraham. So, that time period makes sense, especially for the boy. And then the whole waiting for 33 days, I'm not totally sure what that's all about, but still, I'm sure there's some sort of a reason for that. So then, I guess the 2 weeks of being ceremonially unclean giving birth to a daughter, like, the daughter's not gonna go through the circumcision process like a boy would. So, maybe it's just because there isn't that happening. Then there's the extra time of uncleanness. And then I guess since that's doubled for the girl, it just kind of somewhat follows from that the whole being purified thing is also doubled. So the impression I get is the 7 days for a boy, 14 for a girl was, more like, okay, the mother is, again, like, considered unclean, maybe to the extent that, the animals mentioned in the last chapter were. So she touches anything, it's also considered unclean. Maybe. That's a bit of speculation on my part, but that logically makes some sense for me. Whereas, the 33 days for a boy or 66 for a girl is more so like, okay, the mother's not considered completely unclean anymore. Like, she could do normal things, and, like, you don't have to consider everything she touches to be unclean or anything like that. But she's not supposed to, touch or go near anything particularly sacred. So I don't know. Anyway, that's me trying to make sense of that. How much of that is accurate, I can't say for sure. Again, that's just my thinking and trying to, like, have a logical explanation that's more than just because God said so. So anyway, okay. Enough getting into that explanation. I'm going to move on to verse 6. When the days of her purification for a son or daughter are over, she is to bring to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting a year-old lamb for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. He shall offer them before the Lord to make atonement for her, and then she will be ceremonially clean from her flow of blood. Okay. Interesting considering the sin offering in there. But whatever. Ceremonial cleansing offerings. Sure. I mean, shoot. We covered a couple of chapters ago. I think it was chapter 9. Or maybe 8. I don't know. Anyway, about some of the offerings being done just because, like, you want to be extra super sure of the purification. Don't want to, like, possibly overlook something that could have happened that you're not accounting for, or that you're not thinking of, that would have, been deserving of a sin offering or whatever kind of offering is needed for the occasion. Footnote there at sin offering just says it could also be translated purification offering. Same thing, different word. Anyway. So I guess this was supposed to be after the either 33 days for the boy or 66 for the girl that the offerings were supposed to be brought. Okay. Moving along to this last little section here, which starts off partway through verse 7. Oh well. These are the regulations for the woman who gives birth to a boy or a girl. But if she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. In this way the priest will make atonement for her, and she will be clean. So just a backup option for the offering in case the lamb was not available or could not be used. Which, it's not necessarily out of the question to think that, yeah, there might be lambs available, but maybe they're all older than a year. Or maybe some are 2+ years old and others are less than a year old. So that means there's no year-old lamb available. So anyway, just again, more cleansing, purification stuff going on in this chapter, because again, going back to the previous chapter, God is concerned with being pure and clean and holy. Because, especially amongst his people who are supposed to reflect him and his pureness and cleanness and holiness. So, yeah. Anyway. It's a short chapter, not really too much else to say on that. Alrighty, so we had a pretty short chapter this time around, but still kind of more, regulations or rules, expectations, whatever you want to call them, regarding cleanliness and things like that. Just in this case, it was specifically regarding women after childbirth, and, how long they had to wait or what they needed to do regarding being considered clean again. But anyway, yeah, not really too much else to say there. Again, really short chapter. So, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe and click the bell to get updates when I post new videos to the channel. Look down in the description to get info on other social media pages and all that good stuff. And leave comments down below with any thoughts you have. So that's it. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.